Hello everybody. In my last video I was working on this painting here, and I was basically, this is a painting on watercolor paper with lots of different mediums like watercolor and water soluble crayons and ink and different things, soft pastels, etc, etc. But I wanted to prepare it for oil painting. Normally you can't oil paint on watercolor paper. It's bad for the paper, it's bad for the paint, it's, you know, etc, etc. So I wanted to prepare this surface so I could oil paint on it, which meant, but I also wanted it to be, whatever I put on here to prepare it, to be transparent so you could see the stuff I'd done in watercolor, etc, etc, etc. Underneath it. So in order to do that, I used some of this stuff, stuck some matte medium onto it, but I didn't want the watercolor to get picked up and moved about by the brush, and I also didn't want to spray loads of fixative onto it because fixative stinks and it's probably bad for your health to inhale a lot of it. And when you spray it on a big picture like this, this is just a room in my flat, so like, you know, the smell just gets into every room in the whole flat basically, so yeah, not good for my health. So instead of spraying it with fixative, basically what I did is I applied it to the inside of this plastic bag and then basically stuck the plastic bag onto the paper to kind of apply the matte media, and I just want to kind of update on that because it's all done now and stuff. There's all, you know, matte media on here, and I want to sort of show you, you know, how it's affected the painting, just so you can kind of see, you know, what that actually does to a painting, so you can decide whether you want to use that technique yourself or not. It's a pretty decent technique. It doesn't sort of affect what's on the surface too much, as you can see over here. This part, this is actually pretty much exactly the same as it was before I applied the matte medium to it. You can see it perfectly how it was, so sticking a piece of bag over it with matte media on hasn't kind of affected it too much. There has been some other bits that have been affected a little bit. I mean, the part that's been affected the most is this little crappy sketch I did here in charcoal, which I'm going to paint over anyway, obviously, but as you can see, the charcoal's been kind of, you know, messed up a little bit on here. I mean, you don't know what it looked like before, but it was a little bit more defined, these charcoal lines, and they've kind of been messed up a little bit, and kind of some of the charcoal's been pulled off, but you would expect that. You know, dry media like charcoal, especially like just, you know, vine charcoal, you know, it's not compressed charcoal or anything, it doesn't have any binder in it, so it just, you know, you wouldn't expect that to be to not be affected. Over here, this part was done with watercolor. This guy, it's actually supposed to be Lautzer, and the watercolors actually stayed intact. This part around was done with water soluble crayons, Neocolor 2s, and that has been affected a little bit. There's a little bit less colour on here than there was. I had kind of put like quite a few different colours in that background bit, you know, some greens and some blues and some different, you know, some greys and different stuff. A lot of that's come off and left just mainly the yellow there, but I'm not too bothered about that. This shadow, you can sort of see where that shadow was more of a kind of block, you know, brown. It didn't have the gaps in it, and you can see it sort of pulled some of the brown off and left some of the yellow, but I actually think that actually looks better than it did before, to be honest. Like, this shadow was a bit too dark before, and it's kind of lightened it a bit by pulling some of it off, but, you know, just to warn you that might happen if you use that technique. Now this part here, the face here was a little bit more defined beforehand. This is water soluble crayons as well, and I had kind of drawn over the water soluble crayons with like a brown fine liner, but you know, I don't think water soluble crayons are a particularly good base for fine liner really, so it's kind of pulled off some of the detail off the face, but yeah, it's not too bad. I can do that again. This is what you would do if you were gonna. I'm gonna repaint this because I'm not really happy with the anatomy, I think. But this little sketch here that I did in soft pastel, I sprayed that with some soft pastel fixative before I kind of did this, and it made all the colours a lot darker. But that didn't happen because of the matte medium. That happened because of the fixative. So if I had been more bothered about these lines up here, I could have possibly sprayed them with like a soft pastel fixative or something, or dry media fixative, just to kind of keep them in place, but I'm not too bothered about them. Yeah, that's so for the most part. Yeah, it's been pretty good. It's I've used that method before, but it's always a little bit of a shaky method. I don't think it's a foolproof method of putting of fixing watercolor paper to and priming it for oil paint when you want to see things underneath it still. Sometimes that method it does affect what you painted on there a little bit, but not too much. And this painting is very much in the early stages now. It's quite ugly at the minute actually, but it's it's coming together. I'm starting to kind of see how it's going to be a little bit. But anyway, what I'm going to do now, I think, is I'm going to put another layer of matte media on it, but this time I'm just going to put it on with a brush, because I'm hoping that putting the matte media on with the with the bag has hopefully fixed what's underneath the matte media enough to just put it on with a brush now and not have to worry about picking things up. But I will be cautious when I'm doing it, just to be on the safe side. But I don't know. Let's see anyway. So anyway, gonna put some more matte media onto this plate. I'm not editing these videos, so when I kind of say something daft in the video, it just gets left in. And in the video, the last video that I published, when I was talking about this palette here, I described that as my watercolor palette. It's not my watercolor palette. It's the palette I use for acrylic. Yeah, I'm just going to pour the matte media out onto the plate that I use as my acrylic palette, and there it is. You can see there's still some matte media kind of still drying over there, but I'm going to grab my brush here. This is just a cheap brush. I would not recommend using any brushes that you actually give a shit about to apply matte media onto a painting, because yeah, matte media does tend to fuck up your brushes quite a bit. There's probably a proper way to do it that doesn't fuck up your brushes, but that's beyond me. I'm too much of a Neanderthal to know about any of those methods. But let's have a look. I'm going to put it over here and just see if it's smearing any of this charcoal. No, it doesn't seem to be smearing it. Okay. Right, I'm going to start up in this top corner. Hold on, how can I hold this tablet so you can watch it? Can I hold this tablet in a way you can watch it? I don't know, hold on. I'll tell you what, I might just take off the cover of this thing, because the cover's kind of broken anyway. Right. Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, you're going to turn you a little bit sideways. Might be a bit confusing, but whatever. It's quite weird actually, like viewing this through the lens of a camera. Okay, I looked away from the camera for a bit there, and then I just there we go. Let's just dropping it everywhere, like just gonna be like careful over that bit. Is it smearing? Is it smearing? It doesn't look like it is. That's cool. Right, let's have a look. Kind of hold it back a little bit. It's easier to get it in shot. I might not be actually looking through the lens out all the time when I'm filming this, so if the shot ends up getting a bit weird and you can't really see what's happening, that's why. Let's have a look. Splashing that on myself loads, like this matte media. Kind of almost feels a bit sad just putting it on the part of the watercolour paper down here that I haven't really painted on yet. Could have maybe done something on there with some media that works better on paper before I paint it on it, maybe. There's a ridge. There's some ridges in the matte media that are kind of getting picked up a bit. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to be going on fine. Like this would be smudging. This ink here would be smudging. I mean, it is waterproof ink, but that would still get picked up. There's all sorts of watercolour and soft pastel and all sorts of crap in the sky there, so that would all be being picked up if it wasn't set properly. So seems to be all right, I think. Got bloody all sorts of crap down my sleeve there. Let's have a look. Grab some more. I seem to be going through this matte media really quick. Where was I? Was I about here? I don't know, I can't remember where I was. Oh, I think I've picked up some of the matte media that had dried slightly. I'm just kind of... Or have I? Maybe I can just see it more because I'm actually painting on something that has colour on it now. Because matte media, you see, it dries. I'm just brushing over the parts where it's getting caught, you know. The previous layer was very lumpy, so it's picks up a lot of stuff. Now look at that, it's just run out already, so I'm gonna just get some more matte media, I think. I have to do that with two hands. There we are. Getting that all over my carpet. Hold on, I'll put that bag in the corner to stop it from getting into this. I've got like lino down over my carpet, but it's not the best, to be honest. It's not the best way of protecting the carpet, just putting some lino over it, because the lino just moves around when it's on carpet. It's not like on a kitchen floor where it just stays still. But let's have a look. Right. Let's get some more of this down here. Most of it's gone on the floor. The problem with matte media, it is quite drippy, like. Trying to brush over the bits where it's getting caught so it doesn't get into big lumps. That bit, for example, It's like a ridge there that it keeps on getting stuck on. You know, if I do that, you can see the ridge. Yeah. Let's up a bit higher. Maybe if I just go slower to start with, oh no, I was going to say if I go slower to start with, maybe I'll be able to keep more of it on the actual canvas instead of just going on my floor, but no, it seems to be dripping anyway, so whatever. Just trying to brush it out so it's not too thick. I don't want the brush strokes to be too thick, but I probably will give it a little bit of a sand actually, which I don't usually do.